right, and I welcome you again to the course in philosophy. This week we will be working on your journal ideas, and which are to develop moral reasoning in the perspective of ethics. Okay, so we will be working on those areas. I will open now my guide and go to module 1 just to make sure that I can see any chat messages here on the side. Okay, and in module 1, you will be seeing your guide here in the week 2. So your week 2 is about moral reasoning. And week 2, part 2 is also about moral reasoning. So we will be having 2 sessions today and Thursday. So we will focus on the first one today, and this will be on these areas that I provide in the guide. So I could highlight this. This is the highlight of the assignment. And my advice to you is to use document file in creating ideas. What's going on in my text? I have so much information being open here. Why? So I have to get this one down. What's going on? These are lessons we made in our other classes. So it's open here in my Windows. Anyway, so I can open a new file from here so that I will not be erasing all of them one by one. What's going on here? I think I need to update my. Oh, it's in OneDrive. I should not be using OneDrive. Okay, so the best thing I can do is open this, and this is the document. I have other document that I use. Okay, so I will paste this document. Okay, so I will paste the guide on here. I can take this one first. Okay, so you may be seeing at least a bigger screen for this assignment. So it's about, okay, moral reasoning. And so the first of the questions that I need you to know is the misunderstanding on the definition of ethics. Okay, so the first is discuss, if you look at the question, the possible misunderstanding on the etymological definition of ethics, which necessitates a philosophical definition. Okay, so the second question is describe or summarize the 3 theoretical ethics. So there are 3 types of theoretical ethics, which answers the questions why we should act on certain way. And I think we have discussed the divisions of ethics in your vocabulary last time. The third question is, let's examine the 3 levels of thinking. This is from moral reasoning. So if I would say that 1 and 2 will be taken from ethics in general, and this is the PowerPoint. the PowerPoint, ethics in general. And then 3 and 4. 3 to 5 will be on moral reasoning. Okay, PowerPoint. So there are 2 PowerPoints that you can use here. So the first one is ethics in general. I will visit that in a moment so that you will have that text to use. And the other PowerPoint is moral reasoning. Okay, and I will create 2 windows here. This is the first window. And the second window will be on the PowerPoint so that I can see this 2 windows hand in hand or side by side. So the first is ethics in general. I think I on the recording, correct. So I will open this and download this text. And I have to save as. See if I can open it. And the other reading was moral reasoning. Okay, let's see if I have already downloaded it. Where is it? Oh, here you go. Save as. Okay, I have to open the file. Okay, so I have here the first. Okay, this is the first window. And the second window is ethics in general. So are you seeing 2 windows right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's our purpose because I will look at the questions and look at the resources. Okay. We will not open the moral reasoning PowerPoint yet. We will start with 1 and 2. Okay, so the first one is the understanding about philosophy, ethics rather, which is on the etymological meaning. So it's about etymological meaning. Did you see word etymological definition of ethics? Now, in this definition of ethics, so how to answer number 1? Okay, in etymological. So this is how you will develop your ideas. In etymological meaning or definition of ethics, we try to understand ethics from its root words. Now, etymology is studying the root words. So think about that, finding the root words. Okay, so there are 2 root words that we will study. Okay, the 2 root words of ethics. 2 root words of ethics. Okay, the first one is from the Greeks. Okay, it's from the Greek word. And the Greek word was the Greek word, ethos. And did you see the meaning of ethos there? And the meaning of ethos is what? Habit?
Cultural customs or habits.
Okay. Or custom. So I just put custom or habit. Okay, what is a custom, by the way? What is a custom?
Something you're used to.
You used to do, yeah. And most of the time, a custom is very cultural. So there's a culture that we try to find out. What about a habit? How is it connected to us, a habit?
Something we do often, repeatedly.
Okay, so it's a personal one, right?
Okay.
Yeah, like I used to do jogging every morning. It becomes a habit for me. Or I used to drink tea all the time. It becomes a habit. Or I used to take a bath 3 times a day. It becomes a habit. Or I used to sleep at 6 o'clock in the evening for 12 hours for the next 12 hours. So it becomes a habit. Do we have the same habit?
No.
No.
Okay, so maybe every individual has unique habit, and every person has a personal way of living his life. So the habit that he developed. Now, a custom is something that we practice based on our regional belonging or a group tribal belonging. But both of this, both habit and customs, okay, are not, okay, or I will not say are not. Both habits and customs are developed a long time. At the same time, we need to practice this uh, to become part of us or culture. So that is the unique nature. So this is the nature of a habit or custom. Okay. Now there is another word. This is the second one, and this is from Latin. And Latin word, which is moralis. Okay, so you may be using the word morals, for instance, and that's where the word morality was coming from. So the word morals, morality is derived from moralis. So Latin word is the second origin or root word for the word ethics, which means morals or morality. And so we have now a concept of being moral or being an immoral. A person who is not moral is usually tagged as immoral person. But if you are nice and kind and doing good, oh, you are a very moral person. Okay, so that categorization belongs to the Latin word moralis. And what's the meaning of moralis? What's the meaning
Custom.
of moralis?
Custom.
Okay.
Custom.
Now there is a word that similar to ethos, custom, and this time is preferably like a cultural thing. It doesn't mention about habit, a cultural or a social product. That means it's what group of people develop. Okay, and so you have a concept here that, like morality, is a morality of a group of people, or it's a practice. Okay, is a practice by the group of people. Okay. Now, if you look at these two definitions, what is something in common in this definition?
Customs.
Okay. So you have custom in this definition. Something in common, something that is social, and something cultural. Now, the problem is that are there, uh, is culture always universal? Is there a universal culture?
No.
Okay. Cultural is always relative. And so there is a tendency to evaluate or to judge cultural or customary to be relative to a group of people. Thus, making the definition of ethics misunderstood. When you say misunderstood, misinterpreted as what? A relative concept. And so what does it mean by relative concept versus universal concept? What is the difference between these two? Can anyone distinguish a relative concept and a universal concept? What is relative?
Would a universal concept be like the idea of being nice to people? Like it's universal. It's everybody knows or everybody understands the idea of being nice to people or being a good person.
Okay, so to be universal is like you apply or applicable or to everybody. Okay, that means everybody has it. Okay, suppose I would say a habit. Is habit universal or no? Do you think we have the same habits for everybody?
No.
No, so habit is not universal.
It's relative, right?
It's relative. Okay, that's good. What about taste? Do
It's
we have the
relative.
same taste? Oh, it's relative as
So
well.
you can kind of say relative is unique to one person, basically.
Yes. Do we have the same preferences of color?
Nope.
No, it's relative as well. About our choice of food?
Relative.
Relative. Okay, so most of the time, our concept of having a relative taste, color, preferences is being used in ethics as if like right or wrong is relative to the individual. And what does that mean by right or wrong is relative to the person or to a culture? What does that mean?
That basically everybody's gonna have their own unique opinion. You know.
Okay. So everyone has its own right of their judgment of right or wrong.
Yeah, everybody's gonna have their own perspective on how they view it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's is gonna be the same. Maybe similar, but never the same.
Okay. Now, is the society will survive if everyone will be respected by their relative opinion of right or wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So can we live together with people who are stealing, who think that it's okay, it's all right?
I mean, I
Or
think we do it now as opposed to like Republicans and Democrats. Like we still have different views and different perspectives on the same topics, but we still have to find a way to live together and, make this work.
that's true. But it's good in politics because we can live with politics in the concept of living together, how to make life still coexist. But with the concept of right or wrong, like ethics, people are doing abortion here and there, people are murdering here and there, and they say it's okay so long as I'm not the victim. Now, can we live in happiness if a people or persons who decided to understand right or wrong in a relative way?
No.
No, it's hard. That's why we have a government to define by law to make it universal. Everybody has to follow. Stealing is wrong, killing is wrong. And so it's a universal concept. Now, the problem with this definition of ethics coming from ethos and morales, as if like right or wrong is something relative. And so this causes what? A misunderstanding. Therefore, what do we need to correct this? We need to correct this possible misunderstanding. And how to correct this? We will do moral philosophy. We will define moral philosophy. Okay? And that is our next slide. What is moral philosophy? That necessitates philosophical definition. And that is what the title of our philosophical definition. Okay? I call this one moral philosophy. Okay, so what is it? So when you go to the second slide here, or this is slide number 4 rather. So if I were you, I would like you to develop slide number 3 and 4. So slide 3 and 4 could be of help in idea number 1. Okay, so idea number 1, we need slide 3 and 4. So philosophical definition is found here. Now, if you can see my right side, and I had it highlighted. Okay, I need a volunteer for somebody to read it. Can anyone with a microphone open a mic and read the highlight?
I can read it.
Okay, you start from the top to the end. I would rather have that first paragraph read as well.
Okay. Ethics and morality are both identified in terms of cultural norms or customs. There is a tendency to understand morality of right and wrong as culture and customary. Second bullet point is philosophical ethics or moral philosophy. Philosophy goes beyond this limited concept of right and wrong, but it includes the study of the values and guidelines by which we live and the justification for these values and guidelines in light of reason. Last bullet point, rather than accepting certain cultural, ethical practice or guidelines, philosophical ethics analyzes and evaluates these guidelines in the light of accepted universal principles and theories, not just from individual cultural relativist positions.
Wow. Thank you, Joe, for that nice reading. Okay.
No
Now,
problem.
notice what we were saying in the first paragraph, that ethos and morales have been identified as customs. Did we say that? There's something in common between these two. So there is a tendency to understand ethics as something customary and cultural. And when it is customary and cultural, it is never universal. It is always relative. So we need moral philosophy. And what is moral philosophy here? We have to understand right or wrong in the light of reason, and that is number 1. I am highlighting it. So right or wrong as values, remember, right or wrong, they are values. If I slap your face, what value would you feel, right or wrong? And it's wrong. If I steal your cell phone, it's a wrong value. And so if I will just say that right or wrong is defined, what happened? Something I just click and that's okay. If I define my values of right or wrong independent of reason, that means I will just focus on my likes and dislikes, my feelings, my tendencies, my preferences, then it will never be universal. Why, in reason, something is universal? Why, in reason, is something universal? Do we have a universal feeling? Do we feel the same way?
No.
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 Yes. Do we have the same preferences?
No.
No. So the way we live our life, we have so much relative tendencies. But there is one thing for all of us that is universal. What do you think is that? In the red term there, in the red terms. But everybody has it. Whether you are a child, a young or old, an atheist, believer.
In the light of reason.
Of reason.
Reason is the most universal commodity. Everybody has reason. And so atheists and believers and unbelievers can sit down together and find out right or wrong, which are universal. Because everybody has it. Whether you are using it or not, we have it with us. Universal reason, a universal concept. So reason is the foundation of universality. So I will put this one here. Reason is the foundation of universality. This is where we are in common together. Okay? So as moral reasoners, we are moral reasoners. Okay? We are moral reasoners, we have something universal. And this is our strength. This is our strongest link, our strength. We can find what is right or wrong universally. Okay, and the moment we will exercise our reason correctly, universal. Something here. Okay, this is E. Okay, if we practice our mind correctly, then we will end up in truth. We will end up in finding that moral truth which is universal. And there's another value here. Not only reason that we need to go and study. On the last paragraph, there is something mentioned here. In the light of universal principles and theories. So this reason, okay, will discover the truth, the moral truth. I would say moral truth. Okay, in the light of accepted universal principles and theories. Now, what are universal principles? Are there that you know universal principles? What are those principles we are talking here? What did you know? Like what? Are there universal principles? I'll give you an example. Is dignity of a person a universal principle? Do you think human rights are universal? Okay. And these are somehow, we don't change this, the truth of this. Every person has its own dignity, and they are ends in themselves. And so human rights is the value. Okay. Every person has its rights to live, to be happy. Okay. So these are examples. So if we discover something which is value, then we have to promote that value wherever we are. And this must be the task of ethics. That's why we are here. We would like to correct misunderstanding, and we would like to start working on the right direction, which is working towards universalist ethics. Okay? So this is the goal of our study, which is to find universalist ethical views. Okay, so if you are to say, what is your purpose? Why we're studying ethics? We try to discover universalist ethical theories. Okay, so number two is the way we should look at what are these theories that may affect the way we think. We call this one theoretical ethics. There are three of them that can influence our thinking. And what are these three? One is emotivism. The second one is relativism. And the third one is universalism. Okay. So does anyone remember the meaning of emotivism? In your vocabulary, I think we have mentioned this, that there is a tendency for people to invoke as a standard for right or wrong and call this what? What is the standard for right or wrong for emotivism? Did you find that one? That's a slide number.
It's outward expression, correct, of feelings?
Yes. We just have expressions, outbursts of feelings. And so we think of feelings as our uh, uh, guidelines for right or wrong. So we base our actions based on emotions, okay, based on feelings. And sometimes we say, just do what you feel is right. Just do what you feel is right. Now, is this correct? If I can ask somebody to just do what they feel is right.
Nope.
Why? What's going on with this kind of argument?
Because what they feel is right may not be actually the right thing to do. Could actually be putting a person in a bad position or somebody's life at stake. So, you know.
Now, suppose there is a lady who would come to me and say, sir, I am on my pregnancy, a family way, but my husband or my boyfriend left me. Can I just do an abortion of this baby? I cannot handle this. I cannot survive with a child. I don't have this good work or I don't have income. What can I do, sir? Okay. Now that lady is confused. That lady has so many, say, paranoid emotions. What shall I do this if the child is this, etc. So he was thinking of the worst scenario, say, abortion, killing the baby in the womb. Now, can I just say to the lady, lady, I think you just do what you feel is right. What do you think
Yes.
is the problem? Can I just say that? just do what you feel is right. And I am playing safe there because I may be helping that, entrusting her the capacity to make decision, and I am distant to that decision as well. What's wrong with that suggestion or that advice? Just do what you feel is right.
She's in a bad place, so she might think negatively.
So Eden said, she is not ready to make decision. She is in a bad situation. Do you think Eden she is ready to make decision? And you entrust her the capacity to make decision. Is she ready? What do you think? Why she comes to you? In the first place, because she wants someone to help her. Now, if I will say just do what you feel is right, are you somehow empowering her? Giving her power to make decision which she is not ready? Is that scary and dangerous? The person who is not
Because
ready.
you don't know how she's thinking.
Yeah. And you give her a power and trust her the authority. Just do what you feel is right, Miss Lady. And so there's a kind of dilemma here. If you are using emotivism, just be very careful not to use feeling as the basis for your decision, because feelings come and go. Is that true? They come and go. They climb
Yes.
up, they climb up and down. Okay? And once they console you, if feelings console you, you can uh, make say good decision. But the problem is when you are desolate, when you say desolate, dissolution, or the opposite of consolation, you can be distracted. So the only issue here is that there is the other side of feelings, and it could be distracted. And so I cannot trust my feeling as well. Okay, I cannot trust my feeling. And so emotivism as a theory in ethics will not be accepted as universal. You cannot universalize feelings. You cannot universalize feelings. And that is for sure we need to be what? To be careful about in the process here. Okay, are there questions with emotivism? Okay, let's talk about relativism. So relativism, and by the way, emotivism is in slide what? And this is slide number 8. And then there is relativism and slide number 9. I am trying to write slides here so that you can go back to these resources and wrote your answer. And these are very valuable informations in this journal ideas. And what we are building up in these journal ideas are concepts that will somehow gives us an overview of the whole course, Now, relativism. Now, in relativism, right or wrong, this is how you will define it, or call it morality, is defined by individual person or by a culture. Okay? So there are ways in which we can see a relative position. And therefore, okay, it right? Morality is relative to everyone. It's not universal to everyone. Now, there are two kinds. There are two kinds, if not three, and sometimes they make it three. So I will mention two or three kinds. Now, the first one is what we call the individual relativism. Call it ethical subjectivism. Now, by the way, this is the individual type of relativism. Now, there is a technical word to use, and that technical word is ethical subjectivism. Here, morality is created by the individual. That's a very strong word. The word is created. So you can use that as your way of challenging and defining a universalist theory. Because morality in universalist theory, morality here is discovered, not created. That's where the difference is. Here is discovered, the other one is created. Okay. Now, the second one on here is the group relativist view. Call it cultural relativism. And this is what we call the social type of relativism. And people will say that morality is created by a group, this time a group of people. So you see the distinction here. One is individual in the upper side, and the other side is group of people. Now, so when you look at the definitions, they always say that this kind of morality differs from society to society. And most of the time, they are binding to that group of people where you belong. And so they are not universal. Okay, so that's how you distinguish these two. The universalist ethics is this. And this is what we try to work with. And this is the morality that we will promote. Morality that we will promote. And what is it? Something that is applicable, we call it applicable to all human beings at all times and in all places. So in all times and all places, wherever you are, this kind of morality is acceptable. You don't just accept one cultural value, something that you need to live by, a moral value which is applicable to all. For instance, the concept of justice. Justice is a universal value, okay? Something that we live. Rights, right ethics. You have to give rights to the individual. Virtue is universal value. Duty, everybody has duty. It's a universal value. So all of this may belong to this universalist ethical view. Okay? Now there's another meaning of universalist ethics here. And that says about, okay, I think I already mentioned that. Morality includes all humans being, not only to those living in a particular culture or society. Now, there is a third one if you want to include, and many would not like to include it. We call this one the religious relativism. And this religious relativism is what's often called the divine command theory. And we will study this one in module 2. Okay, these three, by the way, ethical, relativism, cultural, and religious, we will study in module 2 or the next module after next week. Okay? So divine command theory is that God um, is the morality. Okay? What God says must be right. Must be right. And so, whatever you found that is mentioned as the voice or the command of God, okay, must be followed. Must be followed. And it must be right. So the right thing, where's the right thing now? Right thing is from the command. Now, why is this relativist? What's the problem with this kind of theory? Why is this relativist? Is God's command not universal?
No, because not
No, not
everybody
everybody, but
believes in the same God.
yeah.
Hey, that's the problem. Not everyone accepts the same God. We are not using the same Bible. And the way we interpret the Bible are also varied. And we are not universal in understanding what the Bible says. So there was a lady who put his or her baby in the microwave. And when she was brought to the police, she said, "Oh, I had a dream, and God said to me that I have to offer my son and place it in the microwave. And this is what God's command to me." Now, how could you evaluate that kind of reasoning that there was God behind her actions? And that's a problem because for me, she is insane. There is a problem with sanity. But for her, there was a command from God which cannot be wrong. God is always right. Like the command of God to Abraham, for instance. That's the thing that we need to be careful about. How could we understand God's command universally? Okay, so if you were to develop that, that's a very good thing. You can include religious relativism. So there are three types, and I would put that one, three types of relativism under that, and then universalist ethics and so on. Any question with 1 and 2, because I will proceed to 3 and 4 before we end, and we will open a new PowerPoint. Okay, for the next PowerPoint, and I would open, where is my PowerPoint? And here, there is moral reasoning. Okay, so I will open this as well and save us. Oh, sorry, what am I opening? That's the same thing. Okay, and moral reasoning. And downloading in. Where is the link here? I need the link. Okay, so here's the tools of moral reasoning. So what I would like you to look at is what's the question there? And the question is, describe the 3 levels of thinking in developing or identifying personal moral values. Okay, so let's look at tools of moral reasoning. It's here. Okay, this is the first information. There you go. Slide number 3. Okay, so we will be working on slide number 3, slide number 4, slide number 5, and slide number 6. So slide 3, 4, 5, sorry, and 6. So these slides will present to us the levels of thinking. Okay, so in the levels of thinking, I would encourage you to look at one, okay? And so I will start with the highest, number 3 here. So there's analysis as the third level. The level 1 is experience. I will put that one as the base. So how will I draw a pyramid? Is there a pyramid here? Insert a picture. Okay, let's see. Stock images. Just give me a sec. Got icon stickers. No, this is not. Icon shapes. Okay, here. Is there a pyramid? Isn't it? Oh, yeah. Okay, so think of a pyramid. Did you see a pyramid? Okay, now I will draw a line. And the line says, I think I need to put this one down at least so that I can make it bigger. And this one must be the next, okay? So I would put this one here. I will draw a line. Insert shapes the line here. Let's see if I can draw it. I cannot. Oh, yeah. And then another line. Oh, it moves as well. Okay, I would just imagine that I'm not very good with this. But you can also draw another line. Where is it? Okay, shapes line. And there must be a dark one. Okay, so did you see 3 layers? Okay, so imagine. So the baseline here, I would encourage you to think this way. So the one under here, under this, the one on top, where is it? Okay, the one on top is analysis. This is analysis. The one in the middle, just put the middle there, we call it interpretation, okay? And the one below is called experience. So imagine an experience under here. I do not know, it moves as well. So I just imagine here down below, okay? On top, I will just type it on top. So one is experience. This is the top, the lowest portion is experience. So the level of experience. And above experience is what we call interpretation. And above interpretation is what? Analysis. Okay? So imagine that this part here is experience. The second part in the middle is interpretation. And the last part on top is analysis. So the highest in the 3 levels of thinking is analysis. Okay? And we should be able to do that as a student in ethics. Most of us stop at the level of experience. We experience something, but we stop there. And it's not really good and nice. Why? Because we somehow only look at the events without understanding the events. So what is experience? To understand experience. So experience is trying to look at events around us as we encounter them. Now, what are events that happen to our lives or to somebody's lives? Nowadays, we have COVID issues, okay? Many of our friends and loved ones have been sick, and sometimes they're in very bad situation. They have died, okay? I have so many friends in the Philippines, and they've been posting in Facebook their family members who died. I feel sorry with them. I have feelings because they know I know them, and I cannot even visit them, but just be sorry as I read those events. So experiences are certain events we encounter. But in every event that we found or encounter, we also have feelings on them. Is that true? We feel something. And so suppose if my wife, Mary, lies to me, I will also say, I feel angry at it. I was angry of that lying that she did. Okay? If you heard about Hurricane Katrina or Ida last weekend in Louisiana, okay, I heard about that, say, the damages there, and I feel bad about it. And that is an experience of events. Okay? Now, someone killed somebody, so I feel bad about somebody being killed. So these are events. And most of the time, people look at events differently. Why? Because they have different way of interpretation of the events. That's the second part. Do we have the same interpretation of the events?
No.
No. Okay, people are sometimes optimistic, sometimes are pessimistic. Do you know what optimism is?
Seeing the good in something.
Yeah. Even the sad part, you still find the good in it. What about the pessimistic?
It's the opposite. You find the negative in things.
Negative in everything, like waking up in the morning and you think already of being a loser. And so, oh, I'm a loser today. I think I will be bad today. I will experience all the sadness. And so you just woke up and you feel like that, then you will really be sad. But an optimist would say, okay, God is there. I know he will be the boss. And so I feel good, whatever it is. And you keep on singing, God is good all the time, right? So you got here interpretation. So what is an interpretation? So in this thinking, we have an experience earlier, right? The encounter of events. And we make use of them. We make sense of them. We interpret how those events have been affecting us. So we have an experience, we make sense of it. Now, either your interpretation is individual or collective. It's up to you how you view reality. Now, interpretations are well taught and or sometimes well-informed interpretation, but sometimes they are biases from the perspective of the person or a culture. Okay, like for instance, if Mary lied to me and I feel mad or bad, that was the experience here. That's the example of, suppose this is the experience here. And then in interpretation, what do? We make sense. We put a value. And what is the value? What Mary did to me. What is this? Lying, right? When Mary lied to me, okay, it was wrong for me. And when you say it was wrong for me, are you making sense of your experience and put a value on it? Now, do you think everyone thinks the same way?
No, no.
No, because we have different ways of valuing. People would say, well, lying for me is just ordinary thing. I've been lied every single day. Why should I be wrong? I just become callous of lying. So that's the problem here. So this is a bias from your own experience. Or Mary could say, or a person would say, what Mary did to me was just right. How come a person says it's right and somebody says it's wrong? Because we have different ways of thinking, yeah, or interpretation. Now, don't stop there, because thinking do not stop there as well. We have to evaluate our moral standard here. And we call this one the level of analysis. So the word is analysis. That's the highest one here. And what happened in analysis? We try to evaluate our standard based on our interpretation. Okay, remember, we interpreted it in the second level. And there was an interpretation. For instance, you said, what Mary lied to me was wrong. Okay. Suppose there is an interpretation. What Mary did to me was wrong. In analysis, you formulate a question. And your question must have answer. And what was the question based on your example in the second? Is lying wrong? Is lying wrong? Remember, in interpretation here, what did we say? What Mary did to me was wrong. And you go on in your analysis. You ask a question. Is lying wrong? If there are 20 people in the classroom, is there one answer to this question? Is lying wrong? Is there one answer?
No.
No. What do you think are possible answers here?
Yes or no?
Yes or no? Or sometimes. Maybe wrong, maybe not. Others would say it's fine to lie. Okay? There is a good result in lying. Doctors did lie. Military officers in the battlefield lie. They reserve information to those spouses of those who died in the battlefield. They don't tell the truth immediately. Is that not lying?
They don't tell the truth, but lying's not always the best option.
That's why in the questioning is lying always wrong. This is now an examination called a moral standard. If you say lying is not wrong, what kind of moral standard do you have? If you say, oh, lying can never be right and it's always wrong, you have a higher moral standard there. And so every answer from the individual who perceive what lying is means that he has, or that person has, a moral standard. Did you get the point? And where is it coming from? What standard do you have about lying? Do we have the same standard, moral standard of lying or
No.
about lying? No.
No.
That's why moral analysis could always be the highest level, because we will determine our way of thinking and the way we think of what is right or wrong. Okay, develop that side. Now, describe, I would like to leave this to you, and this is what you can find in our text. And this is slide number 8. Slide number 8, and this is easy to follow. And I will try to copy this. Sorry. So I would like to copy the 3. We call this one the 3 levels, and we call this one dimensions. Dimensions of moral or ethical analysis. Remember that we are talking about analysis. This time we have 3 ethical analysis. We call these dimensions. And what are they? The first one is sensitivity. The other one is ontological shock. And the third one is praxis. So if you can work with that, sensitivity is awareness of what is going on around us, an awareness or consciousness of the pain of those who have been victims, and those also the victimizers. What kind of people are they? Sensitivity is something that we feel as a person or a group of people of what is going on, like violence going on around us. Now, many people cannot feel number 1. Why? Precisely because they don't have ontological shock. And so Sheila Mollett said, we need an ontological shock in order to push through in us sensitivity. And what is ontological shock? That is something to be experienced in the core of our being. And what is that core of our being? Something that will touch us. Okay? Now, if I am a victim, and I myself to feel about it, will you be happy or angry if you are a victim? Angry?
Angry.
Angry.
Because it involves you, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, what if somebody is mocked in the corner or being, say, bullied in the classroom, but it's not your relative, it's not even your friend, or is not your sister or brother? Will that something give you a kind of sensitivity?
Yes.
Okay. Now, compare it if it is your brother who is bullied. Which one has a higher sense of sensitivity on your part? Or we call it ontological shock. Which one touches the core of your being? To have a brother being
Your
bullied,
brother.
or a neighbor?
Your brother.
Your brother. If we become close to the person, then there is a kind of shaking moments of the core of our being. But most of the time, we don't experience this because we are distant from each other. So there is a kind of ontological shock is when violence is there is injustice, there is pain, but there is something missing. The core of our being is not being touched. And once this is touched, because the person is close to us, is a family member, then we try to do something, forcing us to act than just to be quiet. And that is very important stages there. Okay, so I need you to look at, reflect ontological shock. What does it shock you to move, to be sensitive to the violence and pain around us? That's Sheila Mollett's way. And we call this the third praxis that we need to be involved. We call it social reform. We cannot live without social reform. Reform of our society, our people, a kind of social change initiatives that we can work and help out. This is the highest level or dimension of of sensitivity, which is action. Okay? Now, for your last part, this is my last comment, you develop this idea. I want you to develop an idea. Remember that all moral tragedy, okay, is experience, at the end of our decisions and actions. And what is a moral tragedy, by the way? A moral tragedy is what we did that has affected us, and there is no point of no return. And we just what? What's the word? Have you heard about regret? It's just regret.
Yes, regret.
When is regret experienced? First or in the last? In the beginning?
In the last.
In the
At
last.
the
Last
end.
at the end.
We always say, oh my God, I did not expect that. But we make decisions already and actions that is irreversible, and we say, I'm so sorry. It will affect me forever, and there is no point of return and coming back, and we just regret. Okay, I think I have an idea that needs to be here. Avoiding tragedy. How will you avoid tragedy? Can you strategize this? Okay, so I can copy this, okay, and then put that one here. Okay, so develop your ideas along that line, and you can say, this is what we can do to avoid moral tragedy. How to avoid moral tragedy. Because tragedy comes to the end. But how could we avoid that we will not reach to the end and just regret? Okay, so this will be our journal ideas for this week. The first one, and by Thursday, I will work on the second part of our assignments. Okay, I'm so happy that you've been part of this thinking process. Those who've been active, participating, I would really appreciate that. Are there questions, and do you have anything for me to check, like attendance? Is there anything that you need me to update? And that's our class for today. And this is recorded, so you can go back to the recording whenever you want, and that is a very good one to follow. So just follow our recording if you miss one and work from there. Okay? Thank you so much. Do you have questions?
Did you already take attendance?
Yes, I check attendance, but I can look at again who are those who just came in. Now, can you give me a chat message for those who just came in? I will just stop the recording for